X4 Foundations and its latest update 9.0 is fast becoming my favourite space game of 2026, and it might surprise you to learn that it's taken me a while to figure out exactly why that is. But also think that when I point it out, you're going to totally understand my reasoning, and that's because Egosoft have done something rather special with X4. They understand how a space game should feel. It's the one thing that connects X4 together. But let me show you something here. Look at this scene. What do you notice? There's no AAA graphics here, no epic space battle, but there's something almost real to this scene. Maybe you can feel it too. It's a sensation of being in space, something more than just a starry backdrop or at travel times and distances. There's a true sense of scale here. And we can see that again here, and here, and here. And I absolutely love that. The sense of being inside a game, of being in space. And once I noticed that, I realised that this is what connects X4 together. That X4 builds a sense of scale that you can understand and relate to, and that's something that really gets inside your head. Now, I want to try and paint that picture for you. When you first drop into X4, it doesn't really feel like a massive, imposing one-to-one galaxy, or nor does it feel like an arcade-focused arena. Instead, there's a true sense of depth here. It feels like a real place. It feels like a place that has geography to it, and perhaps more importantly, it feels alive. It literally feels like there is life here. You can just see all these ships spanning around. You can see the sense of scale, the huge stations, and it just feels active. And that leads me to something that I want to be quite blunt about, because this is something I misunderstood for a very long time when it comes to X4. And that is the nature of the sectors. Now, unlike in something like Elite Dangerous, where you've got massive open volumes of space, in X4, space is constrained to sectors. These are limited regions of space, and many people over the years have called these rooms in space. And for the longest time, I felt the same way about that, much preferring the freeform areas of massive volumes of space, true at one-to-one scale. But then I realised something that makes these locations feel like true spaces, true locations. So you've got a station nearby, you've got those asteroids slightly off in the distance, beyond that is another space station, and you've got traffic flowing between all of these areas, and these are not just NPCs just there for decoration, they're actually carrying cargo from location to location, spot to spot, and that these are all, it's all a working functional economy. What I realised at that point is that the nature of the sectors in X4 means that my brain stopped treating these locations as abstract space and started treating it as a real location. And that does something very special in X4, because it means that these sectors are self-contained, their entire regions as to their own. And don't get me wrong, because they're also large enough to feel like space should feel. I mean, when I head out into the open parts of a sector, those empty areas where there are no stations, and then I find an abandoned ship or a lockbox drifting in that space, well, it feels like a genuine discovery. And that is one of the things X4 understands better than a lot of other space games. Space doesn't have to be infinite to be impressive. Sometimes it's impressive because it's navigable. And incidentally, this is also why stations feel so enormous. And yes, don't get me wrong, I fully understand that the stations themselves are actually big. And yes, lots of games have large objects, but here's the difference. X4 lets you approach them in a way that your brain can understand. You can see them from far away, and then you travel toward them, and they grow, and you don't just drop out of hyperspace or supercruise and then have them appear full size in front of you. Instead, they become huge as you travel towards them. And yes, that might sound simple, it might even sound like a Father Ted joke, but seriously, by the time you're close enough to dock, then those stations really do become imposing. They're self-contained hubs of industry and war, and more importantly, perhaps, there's something that you have moved through space to reach. And I dwell on that point because it's an important part of my realisation of what makes X4 such a great game for me. X4 made me realise that space games don't have to be about size. It got me to understand something much bigger and something much more, fundamental, and let me explain. So I'm flying through a sector, right, on a highway, watching the stations drift past, and I decide to pull off because I spot something I want to check out. I fly over there, pick up a job, run some cargo to another station, and whilst I'm doing that, I'm thinking, okay, if I keep doing this, I can probably afford that new ship that I've been looking at. And then I buy that new ship, and suddenly I've got 2 ships. And then I send out another one off on trades and go do something else whilst that's going about its business. And that means each time I'm checking the map now, I'm doing something much more than just trying to find my next job or my own location, because I'm now looking to see how my other ship is doing. And before I know it, I'm thinking about trade routes, about where the money flows, about where I might want to build something eventually. And the thing is, I didn't change games. I didn't switch modes. The universe is exactly the same as when I was first entering it in that first initial small ship. I just grew into that universe. And that's the thing about X4 that I don't think gets talked about enough. The game doesn't change as you get bigger, as you become more powerful. What happens is that you change. The universe was always this complex. It was always running this economy and fighting these wars and moving these ships around. You just weren't big enough to see it yet. Once you start to see it, you really can't stop. It's like the first time you open up the map and realise your little trading ship is just one dot among many hundreds of dots, and all doing their own thing, all part of this economy that was ticking along without you. And for me, that really is a moment, because suddenly the universe feels like it wasn't built for you. It feels like it was already there and you just showed up into it. And what comes next is even more impressive, because then you start building. And maybe you pick a sector, the one that you've flown through it many times before. You know how the traffic patterns work there, and you know what's being produced nearby in the other stations, and you know where all the gaps are in the market. And then perhaps you put a station there, and it's not just building in space, because this is your building. It's a place you chose for reasons that you understand, because you've played the game deeply. You understand the universe, and you've connected to all the different trade routes that you've actually flown yourself. And then you see those big fleet battles happen, and honestly, this is where X4 gets me every time, because when you see a big battle kick off, all those big ships going at it with each other all across the sector, it really looks great, but it also feels really expensive, because you know what those ships cost. You've saved up for one yourself, but also more than that, you know about all the resources that have to go into building them, the time it takes to get them, and the planning for their construction. So when one goes down, you really don't, it's not just about the explosion, because you can actually feel it. When it's one of yours especially so, it can be a pretty bad day. And this is what I mean when I say that X4 understands how a space game should feel. And it's not really just any one thing, it's that everything connects back to the sense of scale that you can understand. The sectors feel like places, the stations feel absolutely huge because you flew the approach toward them. The economy feels real because you participated in it and actually felt it, and the battles feel consequential because you know what everything costs. They're not just ships that are out there, and even the NPC ships, you know what went into building them. And you grew into all of this, all from one small ship doing one small job. And I think it's that keeps putting me back. And I did have to go through a lot of different reasons on my thinking here. Ultimately, it's not because X4 is the biggest space game, and it's not because it's the most detailed, but rather it's because it built a universe that I can feel the weight of, that I can feel is actually alive. And then that becomes a universe that I can really grow into. So let me know what you think about X4 in the comment section below, because I'd love to see your thoughts on that.